Number 7. The Austin Magic Pistol is, without a doubt, one of the craziest toys ever made. It was sold briefly in the late 1940s and marketed as a toy space gun. This toy gun was fueled by so-called magic crystals, which were actually calcium carbide. You'd load the crystals into the back of the pistol, spray them with water, and then close them in by screwing a cap over them. The wet crystals turned into acetylene gas and exploded. The toy shot out a ping pong ball at crazy speeds. There'd even be a fireball at the muzzle as the projectile came blasting out. If you try to buy this vintage space shooter today, in many states, it's considered the same as trying to buy a firearm. Number 6. Even though they started off innocently enough, Aqua Dots became wrong on so many levels in 2007. This toy was a bunch of small beads that stuck together when they were sprinkled with water. Kids would use them to make colorful sculptures. Pretty harmless, right? But here's the kicker. Kids being kids, they started putting Aqua Dots in their mouths. The beads were supposed to have a non-toxic coating. But some monstrous human beings decided to cut costs by using a toxic chemical that is metabolized into what's called gamma hydroxybutyric acid, also known as GBH, which apparently is a key ingredient in roofies. Some children started experiencing seizures, while others fell into comas. Some were hospitalized for weeks. As a result, Aqua Dots suffered a global recall in 2007, and Bill Cosby had to find a new favorite toy. Number 5. When it comes to the worst things that children can swallow, radioactive material has to rank pretty high. However, in the 1950s, one toy tried to make radiation fun and kid-friendly. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Laboratory was marketed as the most advanced scientific toy ever created. Children were encouraged to measure radiation and, we're not joking here, actually prospect for uranium. In their experiments, they could use 4 jars containing natural uranium-bearing ore samples. One of the games that the manufacturer suggested children should play was, quote, hide and seek with gamma radiation, end quote. When it's all said and done, there was nothing to stop a child from having a nibble on some raw uranium. Fortunately for the millions of curious tongues out there, the toy was only available from 1950 to 1951. It was a commercial flop with less than 5,000 products sold. Number 4. In the late 1990s, easy bake ovens were all the rage, and they sold over 16 million units. In the mid-2000s, these products were even introduced into the Toy Hall of Fame. And it turns out that that's a thing. The celebration, however, would be short-lived. A new oven model, introduced in 2006, had critical flaws that resulted in children getting their hands or fingers trapped in the front-loading door. For a toy that could heat up to about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, that's really bad news. Hundreds of accidents were reported, including about 77 burns, several of which were 2nd and 3rd degree. One 5-year-old girl was burnt so badly that she required partial amputation of a finger. In the end, the parent company recalled close to 1 million units. Number 3. Cabbage Patch Kids were a line of dolls so popular in the 1980s that people were literally fighting over them. Just Google Cabbage Patch riots. It's not one of humanity's proudest moments. Even though the brand as a whole was widely popular, one product became infamously terrifying. I'm talking Chucky-level nightmarish. It was called Cabbage Patch Snacktime Kids, which is a fitting name since the toy essentially started snacking on children. It had smooth metal rollers behind plastic lips, which enabled the doll to simulate eating various plastic foods. The problem is that children would sometimes get their hair or fingers stuck in the doll's mouth. There was no off switch, so there was nothing stopping the hellish doll from crunching digits or munching on hair. It got so bad in some cases that children were virtually scalped. Needless to say, the manufacturers were quick to pull the doll off the shelves. Number 2. Since we're not living in a zombie apocalypse yet, there's not a ton of practical use that the average person can get out of a flamethrower. Until the undead start roaming down Santa Monica, flamethrowers are essentially just dangerous toys. One company in particular sparked a lot of heat a few years ago. Elon Musk's tunneling venture, The Boring Company, sold a limited 20,000 flamethrowers as promotional merchandise. For legal purposes, they specifically labeled the stylish-looking blowtorches as, quote, not a flamethrower, end quote. Interestingly enough, many of those who bought the fire-breathing toys were YouTubers looking to create viral content. The flamethrower inventory was depleted quickly, and at $500 a pop, they earned Musk's company a cool $10 million in revenue. Number 1. Temporary blindness, scratched corneas, cracked teeth, sliced faces, concussions, and broken ribs. Nope, this is not the end result of 4 quarters of football. It's just some of the injuries associated with sky dancers. Back in their heyday, all you had to do was set the toy on a base, pull on a string, and watch it take flight by spinning its foam wings. Once it took off, it turned into a tiny, unpredictable, and uncontrollable helicopter. The toy would sometimes fly straight into a child's face, and the effect could be quite devastating. As a result, about 9 million toys were taken out of circulation in the year 2000.